Yeah, well, it's 10 o'clock. We have, hi, Ruth. I see Ruth Kendall here.
Hello.
I don't know that we do. Sheriff, we've got yourself and Ruth. We have Alan Headley in the room. Bill Lamont's in the room. And we got Ralph. So Ralph Ferrera's in the room. Scott Neves. Frank. Sammy Brown is right behind me. Okay.
Okay.
So we'll have Sammy in just a moment.
Same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's five, right?
Yeah.
Four.
So we have the sheriff, we have Ruth.
Oh, Ruth, I thought you were- that's fine.
Should give us Alan. You. And Rod.
That
looks
good.
Three here and two online. Yeah. So Sheriff, I think we're good. We do have a quorum.
Okay, yeah, it looks like we have five. I know Kurt Saha said he could not make it, but we can go ahead and proceed. And I got to apologize. I'm zooming in. I'm at the Sheriff's and Police Chiefs Conference along with four of the chiefs over here with me. So in Skamania, but we'll go ahead and get started. We do have a quorum of five. There was an agenda sent out and just wondered if there was anybody, if there's any amendments anybody had for that agenda. Okay, and I see Jim Cambites came in, so we have another voting member as well. So the only recommendation I have on the agenda, I just want under old business, wanted to mention the state audit report that we received on October 24th, I believe. So I'll just comment on that when we get to old business. Other than that, I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second, Ralph.
Okay, we have a motion by Ellen and a second by Ralph. Okay, is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And I vote aye. So we'll proceed with our agenda as presented. Part of the packet, we had the meeting minutes from October 19th, if I'm reading that correctly. So if you've had a chance to review those, have any discussion or a motion concerning approval of the meeting minutes from last month?
The minutes from October.
October 19th.
I'll second that. Salad.
Okay, is there any further discussion? Okay. All in
Was
favor?
that
say aye.
Lamont?
Yes. Sorry.
Okay. So do you have it, Rachel, the motion in the second?
I do, thank you.
Okay, alrighty. Is there any discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye. I'll also vote aye. And- Okay, we'll move forward to public comment. I don't see any members of the public online. I also see City Manager Andrew Hamilton zoomed in with us, so we have another voting member for the meeting. Brings us up to 7. So, John, are there any members of the public there that you see or would like to comment?
No, we have staff and alternates. That's it.
Alrighty, we will move ahead to item number 5, which is the payables. I don't know if there's any staff comments concerning that.
I only wanted to make one comment, which is this is the last time that you guys will see a Red Canoe Visa charge. We've officially switched over to US Bank Visa, so you'll start seeing those, and all the Red Canoe Visas have been canceled out.
Okay. Are there any questions of staff concerning the payables as presented? Okay, hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve the payables as presented.
Motion to approve Hamilton.
Second, Lamont.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, also vote aye, so that will pass and we'll move ahead. Item number 6, there's no action needed, but it's the financial report for October 2022. And Rachel, do you have any comments on that or any commentary?
I do. I will try to be quick because I'm going to cover most of this in the budget review. But just a quick highlight for revenues, sales tax Saha was asking about if we'd seen any dips in our revenues. The only time we saw a dip was September, and then October's came in at a 19% increase. So it still looks like we're going to hit that $3 million mark, as long as the last month comes in as it usually is, which is around the 200,000 somewhere range. And then in expenditures, I just wanted to highlight some of the expenditures that are a little bit off in their remaining amounts. So line 34, professional services, we have no more Cresa cost. We didn't have managed IT services because we're not in our new facility. We don't have janitorial costs for the same reason, and we don't have landscaping costs. Those all together came up around $266,000. So that's where that big unspent category is. 38 for telephone. We have about $30,000 of phone and network subscriptions through More Power and NetMotion. NetMotion was moved to the project budget, and those phone and network subscriptions have not started yet because we are not in the new facility. And there are, under the technology and software maintenance line 48, we have lots of new software with the new IT Turrentine. So he's spent a little bit more than what we had budgeted in that category. And we could talk more about that in the budget review. Line 50, the landlord, obviously, because we're still here. So it's much higher than projected. And then lastly, I just wanted to point out that that miscellaneous category seems super off, but the treasurer's office deposited some money into our account on accident. So we had to pay that back. So it looks like an expense, but it really wasn't. And I think that is the bulk for the financial report. Do you guys have any questions on that?
Okay, well, thank you, Rachel. I don't think there are any questions. Appreciate that report. So we will move along to item number 7, which is a approval of the Davis Peak Tower site lease, which appears to be, I guess, a 25-year lease on that. So I don't know if Deanna or another staff member has any presentation to make concerning that.
Yeah, this is a renewal of our Davis site, which is a critical site that we utilize. We'll just stay in negotiations with them for a while because I went down to the site to visit it, and there was what I felt like a substantial amount of maintenance work that needed to be done. So they've addressed all that. We've also had some issues with our microwave there, and when it snows, there's a tree that blocks our path. So they are going to address that as well. There's a additional fee in here that we did not have previously, which is for, I think they identify it as power. And it is 20%, I think it's 20% of the lease, which I figured out to be, I think it's around $400 a month or something. Typically at our sites that are powered, they're, I don't know, $260. Rachel, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but somewhere between $200 and $300 a month. Previously in our contract, Dave was not charging us a power fee, and really what it is diesel fuel. And they have a couple generators there, and they operate off of a 1,000-gallon tank of diesel fuel. And if they run out during a bad winter, they literally truck it up there from the 1,000-gallon tanker and transport it into another container, drive that truck up, and then hand pour it in 5-gallon buckets. So, I mean, I could see that there's
Is that the only tower available up there?
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, I did do a spreadsheet that I think is in here, because you can renew this lease 4 times, and it's 5-year terms. And yeah, there's a spreadsheet at the back there, and to give you kind of a budgetary sheet on what those costs will be over the 25 years. And this is pretty equivalent to our lease at Signal Peak, which is also very remote, and we just renewed that, I don't know, a few months ago.
I'm guessing with the price of diesel nowadays, that's probably,
Reasonable.
well, reasonable isn't the word that comes to my mind,
Well,
but understandable. maybe.
Yeah. and I will also mention, there's some language in here, and I did work with Frank and Lisa from WCIA on this contract a few times, you know, I had them go over it. There's some language in there about, you could probably explain it better than I can, but it was kind of open-ended about that. Based on what the market was, they could raise our lease amount. And I tried to eliminate that repeatedly, and they just were not willing to do it. So I think, you know, we
That's
see a
also-
recession coming, and
also the inflation that's going on.
Yeah,
too. So,
yeah, and I was trying to cap that at no more than 5%, but they would not agree to that. So,
How are the fuel levels monitored? Is that included in lease? Does someone have to go there, or is it an automated system?
yeah, they fill it up pre-winter, and just because it's been there for years, have a pretty good idea, you know, how long that's gonna last them. But when we have like a really bad winter and that thing's, you know, really working hard, then we have had times where they've run out of fuel and had to go up there and, you know, with snow things, what do you call them? Snowmobiles. Yeah.
Okay, are there any questions for staff concerning this lease?
Yes, sir. You mentioned
Yes.
maintenance concerns. Is any of that addressed in this agreement? So
It's
moving
not.
forward?
It's not, but I know that, I mean, they've sent me pictures where they repaired the stairs, they went in and did, I saw like gaps and things where, you know, over the years, they put cabling in or things and then it wasn't secured.
Mhm.
And when we say, Day Wireless, this isn't our shop, Day Wireless. This is the corporation, Day Wireless, and they have a lease department. So, you know, I saw like animal PCs and things, and I'm like, no, I mean, you know, there's multiple people in that site, and so they went in and took care of that and sealed up the holes and put new stairs in because the stairs were literally collapsed. And I'm thinking, I mean, we send our people up there from our local shop, and I don't want somebody, you know, breaking a leg coming out of that, because it's like a big container is what all the equipment's in.
Yeah, I just wondered if from a liability standpoint, if we didn't see eye to eye on that a year from now or 2 years from now at a site, what leverage do we have, or what do we have to demand that they maintain the site?
Right, the hard part is that, you know, there's some towers that are just a redundancy. And that puts you in a very different negotiating position as opposed to something that's a gotta have. But I mean, basically, and having worked with Deanna before on some of these gotta haves, I mean, it seems reasonable, it seems like, you know, we can always say no, but we wouldn't regret it.
Well, and I wouldn't, obviously, I
And
wouldn't advocate for a no vote. I'm just curious in terms of terminology or anything that we can leverage in the future if we don't see eye to eye on maintenance
Mhm.
needs at a site. How
And
do we,
I
how do
don't-
we say, yeah, you gotta take care of this?
Well, sure, I mean, you can always add a provision and see how they respond.
And I felt like they were very responsive. I mean, me just going down there, and I had some pictures, and I just said, this stuff needs to be fixed. And I don't have any language or we don't have any language in any of the contracts that say, you know, this is a benchmark of what the maintenance should be. So I don't know. I know they- yeah.
Multiple. We're not the only one in that site. There are others there as well, so it's in their best interest, and they've been very responsive to it.
Make good question.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'd like a, like a landlord tenant one that says.
Yeah.
Sorry, but if there are animal feces inside, we don't have to pay rent.
Any other questions in the room? I think that's all the questions, Sheriff.
Okay, if there's no further question or discussion, and entertain a motion to reference the lease for the Davis Peak Tower.
I make a motion that we accept the tower site lease agreement as presented, as Ralph
And I'll second that, Sal.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Want to
All
point
right,
out last thing that
I'll-
Sorry,
okay.
what was the last?
Just trying to say, say I also vote aye, so I think that motion carries. Did you have something else, John, or are we good on that one?
No, I thought I heard someone else online say something. Okay, we're good.
We're good on that one. Okay, we'll move ahead to item number 8, which is approval of the purchase card policy update. So, John, do you have some input on that?
Yeah, this is just an update to the policy. We approved the policy recently for the new purchase card policy, but this is just adding a little bit of language, because as it sits right now, every transaction needs approval from the director or finance. And when we have people out that want to buy gas for a vehicle or a lawnmower or something that's getting a little bit old. So this does put in limits that for those that do have purchase cards, they have set limits. I think we went 500 on all around the board, didn't we, Rachel?
We did.
Yeah, so it sets a limit of, yeah, there it is. It sets a limit of 500. Anything above that would need pre-approval from the director. And those that currently have P-cards are myself, Rachel, Bree, and Brandon.
And Dawn.
Don, I knew there was one other.
Is that limit, is that just on paper here? Is that something that the credit card also picks up, or?
No, that's just on paper here.
Okay.
Okay, are there any further questions for John reference this policy? Okay, hearing none, I'd entertain a motion concerning this proposed policy update.
There, if we have a couple of questions.
Okay,
If you have somebody who's gonna go off on travel and training, it's gonna exceed $500, how easy is it to change that $500 back?
When the credit card company, the limits are higher, they're up to 2,500. So that's why this is, to Alan's point, this is on paper here. It doesn't, the $500 limit is not something imposed by the credit card company, it's imposed by policy. Okay. And just an FYI for things like that, that's a great point, our travel. We do as much of that credit card authorization in advance as possible. So we try to avoid those issues.
okay. Is there any further questions or discussion?
Yes, Sheriff, there's another question.
Okay,
None of the staff that are within our bargaining unit have purchasability for a card. It's only the non-represented staff that have need to purchase.
Oh, okay, so
So it's not part of collective bargaining.
So the employees who are in part won't be receiving these cards?
No.
That would be different than what.
Yeah, these aren't P cards that, I know, yeah, I know some entities have P cards that someone can check out, take with them for travel. No, we don't do it that way. If we have, for example, a dispatcher that is part of the guild traveling, will either advance the travel funds
So you
or
still have
pre-authorize it.
museums and all of that.
Correct.
Yeah, that's different. When you're in the city, when we, everybody.
Well, that sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, you have to be seen that.
All right, any other questions in the room? I think that's it, Sheriff.
alrighty. Would be willing to entertain a motion concerning this policy update.
So moved. Alan.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? Well, hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, also vote aye, and motion will carry. Next, we have up the approval of an employee recognition policy update. John, if you'd like to discuss that.
This is the new policy that allows us to, historically, we have at Thanksgiving, Christmas, purchased meals for dispatchers. Occasionally provided lunches for the board if necessary, as well as recognition annually of the telecommunicator week. This was something that the auditor suggested. It wasn't a finding or anything like that. It's just a suggestion that we have a policy that does allow us to expend funds for those purposes, to provide those things. So it also allows for being able to do retirement, small gifts and things, and it does put limits on those things. So this is just a solidifying recommendation by the auditors to have a policy in place that is approved by the board that allows us to expend dollars for recognition of our staff.
Okay, are there any questions of John concerning this proposal? Okay. Well, hearing none, I would entertain a motion to reference this proposed policy update.
So moved, yes.
I'll second.
Second, Herrera.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, I'll also vote aye. That motion carries. We're up to item number 10, the MOU concerning a retention bonus addition. So John, do you want to address that?
Yes, so in bargaining with the guild this year, there was a retention bonus, and part of that language was it was for employees who had been here. I don't remember the start date, but the end date was November 25. And if they were here during that time, they would get that retention bonus. We had an employee who retired at the end of September. Retirement being what it is, and part of that was medical issue, et cetera. However, we've agreed with the guild that employee, long-term employee, more than 30 years, should also receive that retention bonus. And this is just language added in the form of an MOU that would allow that employee to receive that same retention bonus that the other staff who are here through the end of November would receive.
Okay, any discussion or questions of John concerning that? All right, and hearing none, I'm going to entertain a motion reference approving this MOU with the guild concerning this retention bonus.
So moved, Herrera. Second, Lamont.
Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of this motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, I'll also vote aye. We'll move along to number 11, MOU on new hire sick leave bank. John?
Yeah, so we came to the board a few months ago. We had a lot of employees out sick. In August and September, we had another round of COVID come through the building, which was lovely. And some of our new staff didn't have sick leave on the books. The board, we did come to the board at that time wanting to add their advanced 6 months of leave. And we did that, and this MOU simply memorializes that.
Okay, any questions for John concerning that? All righty. Well, hearing none, I entertain a motion to approve those.
Motion to approve, Dan White.
Second, Alan.
Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, also vote aye, and that motion carries. Rep number 12, the Law TAC and Fire TAC update. Reference to Law TAC, Chief Criminal Deputy Brightbill, he's actually here at the conference with me, and he had nothing new. They're going to be meeting in early December. So nothing to report there. And I don't know if there's any, Bill Lamons or Sammy, if you guys have anything on the fire side.
The fire tech met Monday. They kind of went over the finalization of the radio manual and just talked about mobile officer and system failure contacts were pretty much the big points. So not really any shocking things there, so, which is good, I think.
Pretty much wound up then.
It sounded to me like it was. I think whichever one's doing it from LFD was going to do the final edits in the book, and it should be a done deal.
Okay. Is there anything else from fire? Alrighty, we'll move along. John, director's report.
Right, thank you. For staffing, currently we have 18 dispatchers on the schedule. We have 4 in training. We currently have 2 staff on leave, 2 dispatchers on leave. We have 1 that is going on leave at the end of this month. And then, excuse me, we have 1 returning from leave at the end of the month as well, or in December. We do have another dispatcher retiring January 1st, 2023, and another anticipated retirement April 5th of 23. And we have 8 non-represented staff. So we are currently with the 4 that we have in training. One of those is one that's going out on leave at the end of the month. So with 3 in training, we're not currently actively hiring. However, if we have a good lateral that pops up or somebody who's got a lot of good skill and experience, we're willing to entertain that. Excuse me, and to bring someone like that on.
What's the timeline for completion of training on the 4 in training?
The one that is going on leave, she'll come back from leave, probably have just a couple of weeks of catch up after that and then be released. The other 3 are about 9 to 10 months out now. We anticipate one may move a little bit quicker than the others, so it could be sooner.
So the one going on leave is really close to finishing, going solo.
Correct.
The other ones are starting out.
Correct. Yeah, 2 of the other 3, 2 started October 11th, and 1 started November 11th. Yeah. And that was Cal's 2's contribution to us. Thank you. We feel like we stole them fair and square. As to, boy, excuse me. As to climate and culture, we are moving ahead with a focus on seeking first to assume the best of whatever situation is before us with our personnel, and being able to offer support day to day. So we're focusing on the idea that if someone comes in and they're just having a horrible day, instead of just assuming that they're having a horrible day and that's just the way life is right now and whatever, we're focusing on our first assumption being that something's gone wrong. How can I help? So we've talked with our non-represented staff about that a couple of times now, and we've been talking with dispatchers about that. So hopefully we'll have some good impact there. And we will be beginning right at January 1st. We'll start a new emphasis on our 1 team, 1 mission kind of slogan, as it were. Frustrations do indeed still exist with the amount of overtime and things. I think there's just a lot of fatigue. It's a lot. There's still a lot of overtime. The season that people are out sick a lot. Right before the meeting, we were just talking about that. We had one had to leave early in the graveyard shift, and 1 called in sick this morning for day shift. So it's the season that colds are around us, and we'll probably see a little more of that still. Regarding the facility, the building, the RFM, the architect team, they were on site last week and completed their site visit report. Their site visit report was presented to Patriot Construction. It currently has 76, yeah, 76, you heard that right, defects or deficiencies in construction. That's a lot. In our meeting with the architect on Monday, we discussed that number, a more acceptable normal number would be 6 instead of 76. But that's where we're at. There is some progress day to day. However, oftentimes right now that progress is uncovering more issues day to day as well. And work that needs to be corrected. We are seeing a handful of things that are having to be done 2 and 3 times, and we're experiencing some frustration with that. So currently, Patriot Construction has a stated completion date of December 27th. We're all pretty certain that that's not going to happen. In fact, they're certain that's not going to happen. During our OAC meeting, our owner architect contractor meeting yesterday, the project manager stated that when we tried to pin him down on a date, he is simply unable to put a date on it. So that's a frustration for us. I think realistically, if I had to take a stab in the dark,
We'll discuss also in some more detail in the
Yes.
executive
yeah,
session.
we will. If I had to take a stab in the dark, I feel like we might get the building turned over to us, hopefully into February, beginning of March-ish. That's a hope. We'll see how that plays out. But yes, we will be discussing a little more detail about that a little later. The audit update, Sheriff, I don't want to steal your thunder. Did you want to talk about the audit?
Go right ahead. Let's get it on the table.
The audit is complete. We had no findings or recommendations or anything from the audit team. Came out really clean, and the full report is now up on our website if anybody wishes to view it. But everybody, especially Rachel and Deanna, working with the project budget and things and answering some other questions from things that we had done previously with radio work, etc. Thanks to them, we got through that very, very well, very clean. So happy to have that complete and behind us. And then to radio updates, I'll give that to Deanna.
I don't have a bunch. We went out to the small works roster for replacement of our batteries at all of our sites. We didn't get any responses, so we're gonna go on to bid again for that.
That's not something that's on the state purchasing.
Not that we could find specifically. You mean like on a state contract already?
Yeah.
Yeah, we just went to the small works roster and put it out there, and I think maybe we need some more description, to provide more information than what we did. So I'm gonna meet with Day Wireless and work out some better language on there. Hopefully get some response.
Our batteries are all lead acid batteries, or?
Do we mean like DC? I don't know.
No, as far as.
Like they're big battery banks.
Yeah, as far as we know, yes. they're all limits.
Okay, I was just wondering if it would be beneficial. I know it's more expensive, but to look at the lithium batteries and things that are out there now. I'm just a suggestion. They seem to last longer and have better service. And
I'll look into it.
I don't know if they're certified for this.
I don't think we even asked specifically. We just were more about the voltage of it.
Right.
So however those bids come in, their responses, then we'll go from there.
Yeah, there's a lot of new battery technology out there now. It might be worthwhile to look at it. It costs a little bit more on the front end. It might save us in the long run.
All right, I'll look into it. The other thing, I'm gonna work with Day on a change order from the RFP that we did with them in 2020. Partially because some of those prices have went up on projects that we had in that. And I'm gonna add some other things that have come up along the way to that and just do a change order on that. That's all I have.
I have a quick comment about the radios. I know there's another very brief outage with the analog system, and just to let everybody know that, again, the digital system we had was completely operational during that outage, and we had a runner come up here to drop off the digital radio, but it was fixed before we even got here again. But just to let you know, for further redundancy, digital system has been completely operational during the past outages.
Who's all on that?
We are District 1, Longview Fire, and on the law enforcement side, I'm not sure.
Do we know if anyone on law enforcement?
Apparently not.
To my knowledge, no.
Okay.
Sheriff, you guys, no. To my knowledge, nobody from LA. To include Longview. PD.
So I believe a lot of the districts and law enforcement have the ability to have both on the radios.
Like dual.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of the radios now are dual band.
Yeah, what we're carrying is dual band. It's just my limited understanding of it is just a lack of frequencies for
Yep.
us.
Yeah.
And that's mainly for South County.
Currently, the users of it are South County. Yeah.
I was also talking with the state at our last conference on ES chat. And we could set that up over cell phones, and they did a demo there and it really works well. And the state's looking at maybe paying for frequencies for the PSAPs, like, you know, give them 10 frequencies to use or whatever. And if you want more than that, then you have to buy it yourself. But they're relatively inexpensive, like $5 a month. So, which in the big scheme of things is,
And the whole concept with digital is that the bands are much narrower, so
yeah,
you need less of it.
it's just getting those UHF.
Yeah, hopefully this was the appropriate time. Wanted to ask a couple of questions, get some clarifications on the spillman. We had some internal questions on that. With the new system, we used to like, we had a backup system. We have a backup for spillman.
We do not yet, but when we get into our new building, that was something I had the CRP team build, because it's not a capability of Spillman. They just don't have it. So your solution around that is to build redundant systems. So we have designed that, not we, the CRP team, the really smart folks. And
Not the dumb folks.
yeah, I just tell them what I need to make this work. But that was one of my big issues with Spillman, is that there's always downtime whenever they do a patch or upgrade, and it's like, we can't operate like that. I mean, we have to be up and running. And so the CRP team has put that together where we actually have redundant service. So we'll have them at the Hall of Justice and we'll have them at Ocean Beach, and they'll have a failover. So if one goes down, the other one will pick it up. And when we do patches or any of that kind of stuff, it'll be 5 minutes. That's your downtime, 5 minutes, because we'll update the one server, and then anything that happened during that update, we'll push that over, and then we'll update the other server that was running. So there's a solution in sight, that it's just a matter of us getting into this new building and getting all of that set up.
Yeah, high availability is the thing, and this requires redundancy. And we do have that plan in place. We do, by the way, thank you all for your patience yesterday or Tuesday. Yeah, yesterday was Tuesday, right? It was days early. It's January now, right?
It'll be a fast
Yeah, thank you all very much, and your field units, for the patience during that Spillman upgrade. It was quite a thing, but we got through it. Thanks for your units' understanding. Anything else on radios, Deanna? Sheriff, I think that's it.
Alrighty, well, thank you, John. We have executive sessions. I don't know if we have counsel, Frank Randolph there, maybe you could state the reason, and I don't know if we need 5 or 10 minutes. Probably 10 minutes to be safe.
Say 15 minutes, Sheriff?
Okay, 15 minutes. So already, if you want to go ahead, can you give us a reason and we'll maybe have Rachel arrange that for us?
Right, you guys have fun.
Damien's phone.
All right, we are back in the public meeting. Rachel, can you hear us?
I can hear you. It looks like some people are still not back yet. There we go.
Hello.
All right, see Mr. Hamilton back, Ms. Kendall back, Sheriff's back.
So we're ready to move along.
Yep, we're good. Thank you.
Okay, we completed executive session. No business or decisions were made in the executive session. Up number 15 we have is the budget review. So I know between John and Rachel, I think they have a presentation to make concerning the budget for 2023.
So we have, we met with the budget committee once, had a lot of really good input, and we appreciate time from yourselves and your staff on that. We've made some adjustments based on those recommendations. We planned for another budget meeting last week, but most folks were not able to attend, but we still sent the budget out and had a little bit of feedback and made further adjustments. And I think we're in a good place for the 2023 budget. And then we'll have Rachel run through this, and hopefully it's not too mind numbing. We'll all be able to focus. If you have any questions along the way, please let us know. So Rachel, you want to dive in?
I do. 1 second. Can you guys see this screen?
We have paper copies, but we can see your screen, but we see
Okay,
their-
perfect.
We know we have a screen.
Okay, so I'm just going to run through each line item, hopefully quickly, and just kind of tell you where I got my numbers from or how I got to them. In the operations and revenue budget, the beginning fund balances were just what they were for 2022. And then based off of 2022 projections of ending balances is kind of how we got to the beginning fund balance for 2023. The wireline, wireless, prepaid, and VoIP numbers are based on what I projected the ending amounts would be in each of those line items. And then based on historical data, I increased or decreased on the average change over a 6-year span. For the CPD line 13, it's based on fiscal year 23, which runs June 22nd through July 23rd, minus whatever we already claimed against that contract. And then lines 16 through 27 are the user fees. They are based on a 1.6% increase to the base rate, and then the AMR credits were applied to that. And those are the last quarter of this year and then the first 3 quarters of 2023. And then the AMR and coroner numbers are based on a 9.5% CPI increase on my projected revenues, which came in a little higher than budgeted for AMR and a little lower than budgeted for coroner from 2022. The local sales tax was showing a decrease historically, so I put in a decrease, but that might be slightly low with the way that they've been coming in the last couple months. And then the transfer in is to help cover salaries and wages and benefits, since ops is funding our radio funds. And you guys will see more details of that below. Do you guys? Sure.
Okay, so I do just want to point out, in the event there are any questions, so you can see the user fees from 22 to 23. There is an increase, however, of course, the largest ones would be for the sheriff's office and for Longview, and they're
just over 3,000. So there's not a significant increase in user fees. There wasn't a need to go crazy. So we feel like that's should be acceptable to the entities, to the customers that we serve, and it should be okay there. So those numbers, I know when I first looked at those, I went, really, is that right? It is indeed right. Those are the numbers. It's a very small, if any, increase. Thank you. Go ahead, Rachel.
Okay, and I will stop occasionally and just ask if you guys have questions, but please feel free to ask them if you do along the way. So that's our ops revenues. And then our operation expenditures, we have salaries and wages. Those were increased. Do you have a question?
No, you're good. Go ahead.
Okay. Those were increased based on kind of where we see our staffing and what their current steps would be, with a 5% increase based on the guild contract language. I imagine that CPI will be above that 5%, so we just used the 5%. And also in the red writing is all of my notes where I'm getting this information from. So if you guys have more questions beyond that, please feel free to ask. Under holidays, we're assuming 10 holidays for 26 dispatch, 8 hours per holiday at top step dispatch, plus 10 holidays for a 12-hour shift, 8 working the holiday at top step, and then just doing 0.5 of their regular salary for those. Overtime, we have kind of a built-in scheduled overtime with the new schedule that we proposed. And then we also projected a little bit of unscheduled overtime to get to that 198. Training pay went up. We are paying more for training pay based on the new guild contract. So $3 per hour rather than the original $2 per hour that we were paying. Differential swing, graveyard, swing OT, and graveyard OT are no longer part of the contract. It was built into their wage increases from the settled contract. The call pay, I left the same. Dispatcher in charge, we historically don't have any information on that, so I just did projections based on how it was coming in for August and October. August, September, and October is what that note should say. Medical insurance did increase. I did it based on a $1,700 per month for 34 employees. I did update this note because the original budgeted for 2022, I had to use the $1,550, not $1,650 for 35, because the contract had not been settled. But we did end up paying out the $1,650 per month retroactive. And then the Social Security and Medicare is just based on the normal rates that they charge. Retirement's based on the 10.39%. And those are being applied to for security, salaries and severance. Retirement's only being applied to salaries. Unemployment compensation is just based on how the cost came in this year. Same thing with the industrial accident claims. For severance pay, we do have one for sure going out January 1, so it'll be paid out next year. We did assume a 50% turnover for new trainees after 5 months of service, so that's been projected in there. And then we have another long-term person going out for retirement, we assume in April. So those have been projected. If you guys want more detail, I can send this out, and it's on all these extra tabs. For office supplies, the really big changes were trees and stuff for the new facility, and facility consumables like cleaners has been added in here. Do you guys have any questions before I move further? Nope. Okay. So under training materials, we are no longer doing the expectations. So I've removed that for 2023. They're using a new form in Excel. And Power DMS, my note on here should say for 2022, the actual cost was $52.61. I didn't want to change that because That's not what you guys saw, but this 2023 amount is a little bit low. It's not going to affect much, but just so you guys have that on your horizon. Employee appreciation for 2022. It did originally have new employee garments. I have rolled that into recognition gifts. I'm going to remove gifts from here. The auditor does not like that word. So it'll just be recognition. And I've increased it to help cover some of the costs for people who have longevities and stuff coming up, retirements coming up. So we could provide stuff for them, which was part of that policy that was approved. Under small tools and minor equipment, we had nothing budgeted for 2022, but for 2023, we're looking at any possible tools that the facility manager may need, and then computer hardware. There's nothing specific, so we just kind of plugged a number in there for what we think may be needed. For fuel and gas, there's going to be a cost for our new generator at the new facility. Gas is for the new truck that we're getting today, and then oil changes for the truck. Do you guys have any questions before I move further?
I was gonna say, you get that new truck today, you don't have any money to buy gas for it till next year.
We're gonna push it around town until January.
That's Brandon's problem.
I will say, just to comment on the generator, Patriot is responsible to fill it up at building handover. So that's between the tank and the main tank and the tank under the generator, that's nearly 4,000 gallons of fuel, diesel. So it's going to be a healthy fuel bill for them.
It seems like we chatted about having something in place for maintenance to rotate that fuel, or.
Yep.
We do good.
All right.
Thank you.
Under professional and contracted services, we're no longer using Cresa, so I've removed that. We took out consultants for this year. We removed landscaping, removed janitorial. Those were in there. If we didn't get a facility manager, we now have one. I moved Critical down to a different section, so I just struck that out altogether. And then everything else is stuff that we've seen before. Oh, Guardian tracking as well. We got rid of Guardian tracking, so it's not part of the 2023 budget. Any questions in that section? Okay, moving on to legal. We have Randolph Law Firm. I reduced it because he hasn't come in nearly what we have projected for 2022 or the year prior. So we reduced that a little bit. Summit Law Firm, we also reduced. We're not using them as much as we had thought we would, but I added other legal to help cover some issues that we may see in the future. And there's no specific legal team attached to that. Do you guys have any questions before I move on? Okay, for intergovernmental professional services, we still have the contract with District 2. There's no escalator on there. I added a couple Kelso PD fingerprints and then the OSHA admin fee, which is annual, and that's the only changes there. Postage I reduced because we're not going to at this time get a postage machine. For telephone, I increased it in some categories and decreased it in others based on kind of how our costs have been coming in. Under this mobile phones is kind of where you see a big change. We now have 3 iPads, and we're paying for the cameras at the facility, as well as all the admin staff have cell phones, and we now have 2 floor phones. So that's what that change in cost is. WSP access fees went down. It didn't actually go down. I just projected too high for 2022. It's 1,200 a quarter. Net motion got moved to the project fund budget, so it's not a cost for 2023 for us. I did add in WATEC, which is Wave, a fiber connection to the state, and that's a new cost. And then phone and network subscriptions for more power, assuming we're into our new facility next year. Those are the costs that are on the more power breakdown. Do you guys have any questions before I move on past that? Okay. I increased our meals because we seem to have more travel, and this is kind of based on our travel projection tab. Mileage, I kept the same. Parking, I increased a little bit. Tuition and registration also increased a little bit. We had more people registering and being able to go to trainings this year, so wanted to make sure we had enough money in there for that. In addition, the airfare costs for people to go to those different trainings, I increased. Car rental, I left the same. We're not at this time utilizing the car rental category very often. And then lodging is kind of down below here, but I also increased our lodging costs significantly for all those people who are able to travel and have to fly there. And then we have advertising. I left advertising the same. It's for us to post jobs, us to do RFPs, RFQs, and then any other miscellaneous advertising that we have to do. Copier rent, I just did, because of the new coding for the state auditor, I had to pull tax out of that projected amount. So that's the change from 22 to 23. And then there's a category below for tax. You guys have any questions on that stuff? Okay, moving right along. For insurance premiums, WCIA has increased. That is the estimate from WCIA. The State Farm Fidelity Bond's the same, and property insurance for the new facility, I left the same. And we will now have auto insurance for the new truck. So I just left the projected amount that they gave me from 22, which is $416 a month. Under technology and software maintenance, I increased the different categories that needed to be increased. I moved Critical down here because it was a more fitting category. All of these rapid web services, ESRI, PageGate, etc., are all things that IT has now implemented for us. So they're new software that we have to pay for. I increased the miscellaneous unanticipated maintenance repairs and the CDWG, know before, those are all the IT suggested softwares, so I've added them in. CCS console cleaning services, it's not gone, it just got moved to a different category. I increased our Office 365. The subscriptions cost has gone up, same with the cloud server backup. And I think those are the major changes in that category. Do you guys have any questions in there? Okay, moving right along. I renamed this line item memberships, dues, and subscriptions because it has a lot of our membership costs in it. We have quite a few new memberships for myself, and then also we've become members for things that we thought would be beneficial for PubEd and for IT. So these two were previously in dues and subscriptions. I moved them to the category above. So that's why they're struck here, but there's still a cost we have. This is the copier tax that I referenced before. It's has its own category. And then for landlord tenant, I left this, I took what our monthly cost is. I budgeted for 5 months of that at a 5% increase. And then City of Longview is just the normal cost, the $981.30 per month plus the $1 for our lease fee. And then we now have that more power storage lease. And so I've added that in here as well. And I don't know if you guys know what that is about, but they're just storing some radio stuff for us while we are not in our new facility. Any questions on that? Okay. For computers and software, left it the same. Miscellaneous other, we increased it just in case there's stuff that doesn't fit into one of these categories. Board/employee appreciation meals, I increased that to help cover our Thanksgiving, Christmas, those things that are in that new policy that was just approved. Photocopies, they came in a little higher than they have been, so I increased that category a little bit. Lodging, we already talked about. State auditor, we will not have next year, so I just removed it. Repairs and maintenance, I left it the same. And our current cost right now in repairs and maintenance is just the gas for mowing and then a couple tools for the new facility manager, but all the rest of these are were projections that we had talked to other entities to try to get a close number for the new facility. I didn't touch the IGN ISP number. And then this moving expense was a category I had to create for John. It won't be part of 2023. And then we created a capital outlays. We'll be having some fencing and landscaping costs in there. And that's at 46,000. Do you guys have questions on that? Okay. The last part of this is transfer outs. I've removed this transfer out to custodial. There is no more custodial fund. And it was like a $2 transfer. Transfer to radio reserves, transfer to radio reserve expenditures, and transfer to radio ops have been unchanged. Sorry, radio ops did increase based on the operation costs, but the reserves didn't change. Do you guys have any questions before I move on to the other funds? Okay, for equipment reserve, I increased the interest and the transfer ins were decreased because we had some expenditures that have been moved to other places. So we didn't need to have quite so much coming into our reserve accounts. And then down in our expenditures, the West Tech Stancil is based on a quote that we received. I'm not sure if that will come out of this budget for 2022 or 2023, but I wanted to have it in there just in case. The radio console got pulled from the project budget. The Spillman, it's just one invoice left. I'm not sure where that stands of when or if we will be paying that. For capital outlays, there's server and network replacement things that are part of the more power breakdown. CAD upgrade is not part of that. The phone system, ECW, and clock synchronizer were pulled from the project budget, but they were not part of the replacement schedule for year 2022. So it didn't actually affect too much of the transfer costs for that. And then console furniture there was nothing for 2023. Do you guys have any questions in that fund? Okay, radio operations. The only things I want to point out here are the 2022 ending included a 10% renewal fee, which was not shown in the 2022 budgeted amount for Spilii and for for Spilei Tower for Cressa, and the R for HLS was not shown in there. So that's, I guess, why the budgeted amounts seem, the increase doesn't seem significant there. Other than that, we've added the WASDOT Spilei lease, and the leasehold tax has been moved from our custodial fund into the radio operations fund because it was immaterial to the auditor, so we didn't need to have its own fund. I increased the interest earnings because they've come in significantly higher this year. And then the transfer in amount, I also increased based on the expenditures that are coming in below. Any questions on the revenue portion? Okay, so for the expenditures, I increased the propane by $1,000. It's come in higher than projected the last couple years, so I wanted to have an increase in there. The insurance annual cost is based on what WCIF has sent out. For electricity, I increased based on what we've actually been paying average for PUD at our sites, and I also added this new Deer Island site and the Green Acres site. So those are new costs. And then in repairs and maintenance, the radio system maintenance contract we have with Day Wireless has increased, and when they add Deer Island, it's going to increase more. That's really the only changes for that section. This leasehold tax right here of $1,000 is just moved from that custodial fund into this fund. Property taxes, I didn't touch them. I left them the same. And then lease rentals, I increased based on the contract language of what they would be. Davis Peak, which is what Deanna had talked about. I originally budgeted at $45,000. I can decrease that based on the spreadsheet that she sent out. And then Deer Island has been added as a new site on here. Do you guys have any questions on radio operations? Okay. For radio reserve, we are building interest now because we've started the reserve accounts. So I added the interest in there. And then the only revenues coming in there are from transfer ins. And then for radio expenditures, the difference in the radio site improvements is just what I projected we would finish this year on the radio site improvements project and what we still have outstanding, but it sounds like that may or may not increase based on the change order that Deanna had discussed. And then for capital improvements, we put in that $2 million for microwaves and battery replacements. We'll see where that comes in at, but that's just the $2 million that we projected for the federal grant if we get it. And then, do you have questions in that fund? Okay. For sales tax, I'm not really sure. 2021 may have been an anomaly based on the high stimulus and the unemployment. So I took what we projected the ending balance to be, and I actually did a decrease of 2% on that amount because I'm not sure if things are going to go up or down. And Saha had talked about seeing a decrease, and I saw a decrease in September, so we wanted to be on the conservative side for that. I did increase the interest because that seems to be coming in, and even that 21,000 is low compared to what it's come in this year. And then the rest of sales taxes to fund all the other funds that we have expenditures coming out of. Do you guys have any questions on that? Nope. Okay. The the stabilization fund, increased the interest, and I had to do a transfer in from sales tax because this one is designed to have a 10% on the operations cost for operations and radio ops plus a year of debt service. And so to hit that number, I had to do a transfer in. And there's no expenditures out of here, it just sits there. You guys have any questions on that fund? Okay. In our bond reserve, increase the interest, transfer ins. This will be the first year that we have principal payment. So that's that jump that you see in there. And that's also matches the expenditure side where you have interest and principal payment. And that's it for our bond fund. For our project fund, increase the interest earned. And then in the expenditures, I exhausted some of the line items, but I left some money sitting in there for other items. So I'm not exactly sure where we're going to be at with the project, but wanted to have enough money in there for 2023 to pay out everything. Any questions on those? Okay, custodial fund is just sitting here so you guys could see that it did exist and now it doesn't exist for 2023. So for the final budget, I'm just going to completely remove any zero line items or anything that we don't have anymore. And then the last fund is our facility reserve fund. And nothing really changed here. I kept interest the same, transfer in the same, and there's no expenditures out of this fund. And that's it.
Okay, well, thank you, Rachel. Are there any questions for Rachel concerning the budget?
One clarification, and it's probably because I didn't hear correctly, but on the operations revenue, first page, the user fees, I thought I heard Rachel say 1.6% increase, but I see in 0.65.
Correct. It's a 1.6% increase, but for the AMR credits and Florida credits, and that reduces the amount. So the net effect is a 0.65.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, are there any further questions on the budget?
But we will bring this to the board in December for approval for the 2023 budget.
Well, that was my next question, if we need to take action on it, but we'll see that in December then. So, okay. Is there any further questions? Okay.
Well, actually, Sheriff, if you wanted to amend the agenda and approve it now, you're welcome to do so. I don't foresee any other changes to the budget itself. Rachel, do you foresee anything else?
I do not, but the passing of the budget is typically done through resolution, which has been drafted, but it hasn't been presented in the board packet. So I don't know if you guys want to do that.
Well, let's just hold it over till December then, in that case.
That is actually one of the things we want to discuss for the December meeting. The meeting on the third Wednesday would be, I believe, December 21. I know not everybody stays in town, and some people are with family and vacations, etc. Yes, December 21 would be a regular meeting for your consideration.
Or if family's in town, it's a good reason to leave. So,
Or, yeah, right.
We always have the Zoom option. remember?
That's right.
So we're open to however the board wants to handle that. If you want to have the meeting on the 21st and hopefully we have a quorum via Zoom or whatever other means, or if you wanted to do a special meeting perhaps the week before on the 14th and then cancel the 21st meeting. It's entirely up to the board's discretion how you want to handle that for the December meeting.
Well, I would propose doing it on the 14th if that works for everyone.
Okay. So Rachel will advertise for a special meeting on December 14 and cancel the 21st meeting.
Well, that sounds good. Only other, under old business, I don't have anything other than I was going to mention. I know Eric Reese presented Pulse Point last month and kind of put it out as a homework assignment. And I know I did not get to a chance to look at that, and we're kind of going along today. So maybe we'll just make a note for the board members to look at Pulse Point between now and December and familiarize yourself with that. And we can have some further discussion. Other than that, I don't know of any old business pending. Does anybody have anything?
I was gonna mention something about the audit.
Oh, that's John went ahead and covered that in his director's report already. That yeah, the state auditor report was clean and everything came back good. Said good things about Rachel. So that was went well. Other than that, is there anything else? Well, if not, let's adjourn then till December 14th. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day.